Yeah, that's it. Okay.
It is on Facebook.
Okay, sorry about that. Here we are.
Thank you. We're back. We're live. Thank you. So those that may have joined us, we already acknowledged that we are in Unamagi and the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We have also approved our agenda. And our first item on the agenda is a motion for the second reading of the local improvement charge bylaw. So with that, we were just making reference to the fact that we are following a bylaw process that's been approved and developed by the Municipal Government Act. And step number one is to the issue as identified, and we identified the issue back earlier this year. Council approves the first reading, and I was just before we realized we weren't online. Council approves the first reading. That means that the bylaw goes forward in the process, not that we're approving the bylaw. So we just want to be very clear on that. The bylaw is then published, which we also did do. And then we go to a public hearing, which we had in Ingonish a couple of weeks ago. And that is where we heard the feedback from the community. We also heard feedback electronically. So we use that as part of our thought process when we decide to make the decision here today. So the next issue is that we are going to proceed with a motion to proceed or not with the second reading. So we do need a motion to vote on whether we wish to proceed with the second reading.
So moved.
It's been moved by the Deputy Warden,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councillor Organ. All in favor?
All right.
Contrary minded. So in regards to the second reading, it is a vote of council. You can vote in favor or opposed. So are there any councillors in favor of proceeding with the second reading? Going once, going twice, there are none. Are there any councillors that are opposed to the second reading of the bylaw? So it has been unanimously approved that we do not proceed with the second reading of the bylaw. We would like to make sure that those votes are recorded and the bylaw reading motion has been defeated. So with that,
Warden, could I just make a comment just at the, after that? I'd like to thank,
sorry, just let me clarify. I should have mentioned just in the moment that there may be some discussion on the motion. So let's just hold that vote for 10 seconds. But anyway, the cat's out of the bag. So.
okay, thank you. Yeah. In my 20 years sitting at this table, and my predecessor, Gerald Sampson, is here 20 years ago, it's hard to believe. This is probably the issue that I spent the most time reading material and talking about it and thinking about it and so on. And I think there's a couple of thank yous in order here. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I'd like to just thank a couple of people or individuals. First of all, our communications coordinator, Jennifer Dagsvik, is over here. She was, I don't see her there now, but she did a job of getting the information out to the public, which is a part of democracy, which is a part of our government, that people have the information. And I'd like to thank all of you and the other 1,500 people approximately that signed petitions, sent emails, did phone calls, and all of that. That is how our democracy works. You know, and I think it's important what the warden said at the beginning too. The first reading of a bylaw, all that means is you're going to consider it. And then you go through the whole process as he described and we went through. And that's where you get the public input. And that's where we as council get a sense of what the public's thinking. And that's how we make our decisions. So again, I'd like to thank everybody in the room and all the people that stood behind you, who sent emails and calls. People were very willing to discuss and ask questions. And that's what we like to see. And maybe we'll have some more of it. I don't know if we can create another controversial bylaw like this one next week and have the whole uproar again. But you know, the thing is, with today's technology, you can keep track of us. You can watch us on council, you can come to the meetings, you can phone us, you can email us or whatever. So again, I think this is a good day for democracy in Victoria County. Thank you.
And we're just going to go back to the vote in a minute, but anyway, Councillor Longva, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've talked to a lot of constituents in my area and like lots were opposed to this, but a lot of people were opposed to it in relationship to the project in Ingonish. But some people did say that they could see that a local improvement charge could be a good tool. But the way it's written right now, they didn't agree with it. It's way too open-ended, giving way too many choices, not narrowing down, being more specific. But in certain situations where maybe there's just like a local group of businesses that want to pave, sidewalks between their places, then maybe a local improvement charge would be good then, because people in other areas may not want to pay for that. And that's basically what it is. The improvement is for your area, to be very specific. In Ingonish, it didn't work because the people in between were, were not really, they didn't think they were going to benefit from it. And so they were opposed to it. But in some situations, it could be a useful tool. And those constituents that I talked to were contractors, lawyers. There was different people that were willing to sit down with that document and make changes to it and bring it to council and see if in another version. So that's something that I would like to talk with the other councillors about for future, because I think it could be in certain projects, it could be a useful tool. But at this time, obviously, we've voted it down.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else have any comments before we wrap up? Just to confirm, because we should have asked for discussion prior to the asking of the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. We have allocated time at the end of, we have allocated time at the end of council, sir, to, for the public. So we have other presenters scheduled, so you will have the opportunity if you wish to stay for council for sure. So that issue has been dealt with. We just, on behalf of council, I want to thank you very much for your time and interest in this particular bylaw. I also like to thank you for your time and interest in municipal government. So it's, we heard from everybody. We appreciate the comments, and I will just leave it at that. So our next item on council is we have a presentation from Chart Van Den Berg, and it's about asset management. And he is going to join us via virtual. And so we'll turn it over to Chart. Welcome.
Thank you, Warden. Can you hear me okay? I don't hear you. Am I assuming you can hear me okay?
It says unmuted.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. And I'm assuming you can hear me as okay. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, Warden and Council. What we would like to do, and we just give you a very brief overview of the asset management initiative that's been going on for some time at Victoria County. And so I believe the idea is to go through what we've done in about 20 minutes, and then maybe leave some time for some questions afterwards. I'm assuming you can see my screen. Oh, okay, so I'm assuming that's a yes, so let's keep on going. What I would like to do today is just sort of walk you through the asset management process that we've been followed, to really provide an overview. And I've got some slides I want to show you. So the first thing we just want to talk about is why asset management. And as you know, surely know that infrastructure is aging, and it needs to replace at some stage. And if you think, typical infrastructure, pipes and hydrants and buildings, the life expectancy would be between 50 and 100 years, say, and so at some stage, that infrastructure needs to be replaced. And that could be a substantial cost to it. And as we all know, there's limited funding available. So that requires proper planning with regard to asset management. And this is really what this is about. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what's been done by staff and our company. We work together with them, Kelly and Greg specifically, moving forward with this initiative. So first of all, when we look at asset management, we try to answer these 6 questions. What do we own in terms of infrastructure? Where is it? What is it worth? What is the remaining life of the assets? What needs to be done first? Basically, what do I fix first? And then lastly, how should it be done? So I'm just going to quickly go through those questions and sort of address them as we go through. Now, to answer those questions, what happened is we went through and we adopted what we refer to as a 3-step approach. So we started with compiling an asset register, our first step. Then it was followed by prioritization of the assets, looking at the high priority assets. And then lastly, we ended up with some form of a, let's say, strategy or a plan that would follow from there. So just going through back to the questions, so what do we own? There is, as you most probably are quite familiar, the infrastructure that's in the asset inventory is basically your 4 water systems, Dingwall, Neil Harbour, Ingonish, and Little Narrows. And then there's also a fair amount of what we refer to as municipal buildings and facilities. And there are also a bit of what we refer to as transportation, but it's specifically sidewalks that we captured. So more about that in a while. But so the next question, if I can address here, is where is it? So this is what you see here is a snapshot of the GIS, a Geographic Information System. It's a mapping system that was all set up that we use to capture all the infrastructure. What you see there is that red line there. That's really a pipe that I clicked on, and on the right-hand side, there's information that's linked to that pipe. So it's almost like Google Maps, but just a bit more complicated to simplify things here. What I think important to note here is that there's about, I think, more than 2,000 different items that was captured in the asset inventory. That could be a hydrant, a valve, a piece of pipe, piece of sidewalk, etc. So lots of information were captured, and here's just an example. If time permits, I can surely show you a live demo as well, but I thought in the interest of time, I'll just go ahead with it for now. So that is sort of answer the question, where is it? And I feel very comfortable that we really know where the data is, and we made good progress on that. The next item or question that we try to answer here is, what is it worth? So if you look at the value, the replacement cost of all your assets, the assets we just talked about there, it's about estimated to around about, say, $37 million at the way that we estimated the cost. And if you can see there at the bottom here, it's there's about 9.5, say almost million would be for buildings and parks and recreation. That's really your buildings that you have there. Then these are the 4 water systems, Dingwall, about 4.4 million, Ingonish 6.5 million, 10.4 million for Little Narrows, and Neil Harbour about 6 million. And then also transportation, which is basically those sidewalks we talked about. So that is sort of, now this is just a summary. We obviously have a value for each of those 2,000 items we just talked about, but this is just a summary to give you an overview of what we are talking about. The next item or question we try to answer here is, what is the remaining life? The 4th question. And here is a bit of a complicated graph here, but I can just show you here. This is sort of on the bottom graph or axis here. This is time, years. So this is a 5-year categories. So from 2023 to 2027, etc., for the next basically 50 years plus years that we've got here. What this is showing us is, as we know, as we just mentioned in the beginning, is that the infrastructure is aging and it needs to be replaced over time. So what this is showing us is when the anticipated time or year, in this 5-year period, we anticipate that the infrastructure needs to be replaced. Because we know when it was installed, we have an anticipated life expectancy of, say, a pipe or a hydrant. So then we can calculate and say, okay, this is the amount of infrastructure, the cost of infrastructure at today's Canadian value, not inflation. Inflation is not being added in here. But this is the amount of money that is needed to replace it. So this, to give you an idea here, this is sort of, it's just broken down by asset group that we just talked about in a second. But basically what we're saying here is about, say, 1.2 million in the next 5 years that we anticipate will be replaced, it needs to be replaced. We'll talk about that a bit more detail later on, but the important thing here is that it doesn't necessarily have to replace. It is at the time when it reach its end of design life. And as we know, pipes can last longer, and it's obviously related to, there's some risk involved in that. And that's sort of, again, one of the things we look at when we do the asset management planning. Important thing just to note here is that if you look at the first 10 years, there's actually little anticipated renewal cost or anticipated, because the infrastructure is actually in a fairly good condition. Over here, like in 20 years, there's some more, and then as we go on, there will be more as we go through the years. So that's just given an idea of what we have there. Next item here. So just maybe coming back to our 3-step approach, the asset inventory. Through that, we were able to answer those questions. The next step here that we looked at is the asset prioritization. So what we did there is that we have to look at, now we can't replace all this infrastructure straight away. What do we fix first, basically? What needs to be done first? And we did that by identifying the high priority assets. So obviously your focus will be on the high priority assets. What happened here is that we did what we refer to as a risk-based approach. So we looked at all those 2,000 plus asset items we captured, and we looked at two items, two variables, as it were, that we looked at what is the probability of failure of a particular piece of pipe, hydrant, valve, whatever the case might be, and we gave it a value. One means that the probability of failure is rare, or 2, unlikely, possible, likely, or almost certain to fail. So that's 1 to 5. That was the value that was given for each of those asset items or features that we refer to it. That's the first thing we did. We also looked at the consequence of failure. So what is the consequence if that particular pipe fails? And is it minor? Is it moderate, significant, major, or catastrophic? So by looking at those, by identifying those values or allocating certain values to those assets that we captured, we were able to, if you look at this matrix here, to come up with what we call a risk value between 1 and 25. So the red is bad, the green is good, and somewhere in between. Just to give you a bit more, without going into too much detail here, coming back to the probability of failure, I just made a screenshot of a specific area here. This is the probability of failure of pipes. So hopefully you can see here, these are some pipes here, which is green at the moment. So the probability of failure is low, it's green. It's actually unlikely or rare to fail. And the reason for that, in this particular area, the pipes are in fairly new. They've got lots of life left still. So that is looking good. So that is the first thing we did. We did the probability of failure. Obviously, for all assets, I'm just showing you a screenshot to illustrate the point. The next thing we did is we looked at the consequence of failure. Here's the same network again, but the consequence of failure is different. So in this case, I'm not sure whether you know this area, but this pipe is actually coming from the water source, and it's distributed to the various areas. So if this particular pipe fails, nobody will have water that's going down from this particular pipe, from this particular, it's feeding this whole area here. So that's why this is sort of what we call, if you look at that, it is, if this fails, there's a major, it's a what we call a major consequence of failure. However, if you look at this green one here, this is just serving one property. And we say, obviously, it's important we need to fix it, but the consequence would be much less than if this one fails. Hopefully that makes it clear. What we did is that's how we allocated a very simplified exercise or example here, how we allocated the consequence of failure. Okay, and then putting those together, if you remember that matrix we just showed here, this is now the basically consequence and probability of failure being put together, and then we were able to identify high risk assets or low risk assets that we refer to as a risk profile. So as you can see here, this is now turned into a yellow pipe, which means it's got a medium risk. So it's not the end of the world if it fails because it's new, but although the consequences is high, that's why it's orange, and this stays green. So this is actually minimal, I believe. Here, if this fails, there's a minimal, the risk is minimal in terms of the total impact to the community. So that was the exercise we did for all the assets. And just sort of to wrap this up, we ended up with a risk profile that you can see here. And this is sort of just showing you for the various asset groups we just talked about. The green means bad, good, and the red is bad. So here you can see again, it's actually there's a lot of green, a lot of yellow, and a lot of orange here, which means that your infrastructure is actually in a good state. It's relatively new, so there's no major short-term issue that was identified. So that's sort of the risk profile we were able to come up with. Okay, so now the next question here is what should be done, and then we look at that. That's really the prioritization side of things that we look at. That's the last step that we looked at, that we mentioned. The third step in our sort of approach, three-step approach. What should be done? How should we do it? Right. So that's the last question. So obviously, as we discussed, the focus was on high priority assets. So that would be really what we would focus on initially. Secondly, if we look at, we can do two things with this information. It should guide and support capital planning and budgeting. We're not trying to put a budget together here, but the whole idea is for this information to help staff and council to make more informed decisions when you do budgeting. And we have already, I don't want to, for lack of time, I can't show this to you now, but we can do some projections, as sort of you kind of saw already, in terms of what money is anticipated to be needed over time and what needs to be put away in reserve, etc. So all those questions we can address now with this information. That's related to capital planning and budgeting. The other thing we can also do is we can also support what we refer to as operational planning and procedures. So as you might know, and we talked about as assets that we look at what is the anticipated design life of assets. However, assets can last longer, and engineers tend to be fairly conservative when they do the calculation of their remaining life. So what we typically would do is we could implement what we call preventative maintenance procedures. Just a very quick example would be, for instance, if you've got a valve and you exercise the valves, open and closed once a year, then the life expectancy will be extended and it'll last maybe longer than the 25 years, say, that we anticipated the life of the accident should be. You can maybe extend the life much longer than that. So that's just a very basic example to show you. And then through that, we can basically mitigate risk. So we can say, although we know this pipe is at its end, it's getting old. However, the consequence of this particular pipe failing, it's only supporting a rural area, agricultural area. It won't have a major consequence. So we are happy to take that risk. We're not going to fix this pipe because the risk is low. So those are all the questions that we can now answer, at least give guidance to council and staff to make more informed decisions on that. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to share with you. The last thing, this may be last slide here, if you could bear with me, moving forward. What is very important, and I think it was achieved through this process, that the asset inventory, the data is being captured. And the data, as you might know, is a very valuable item. If the data is not accurate, the whole thing falls apart. So one of the important things here that staff has identified, we work with them very closely, is a process or a workflow, as we call it, to make sure that the data is maintained and updated on a regular basis. So that's the one thing that will be the focus. The second thing is on the prioritization we just talked about. It's important to review this risk profile on a regular basis, maybe once a year. That is sort of another focus moving forward. And lastly, as we discussed, the strategy would be then still to focus on the high priority assets. And that will guide, obviously, the capital plan, operational plan, mitigation, and preventative maintenance procedures that they put in place. So that is really what I had in mind and what I wanted to share with you. I'm not sure, I believe you have got a full program, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm using the check for the council. If you have any questions in regard to the asset management presentation today. Councilor McNeil has a question, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Warden. I'm just wondering, will council be getting the software themselves to look at what's in the program?
Yes, council have got access to it already. Now, I didn't mention this, but what we also do is we do work for a lot of smaller communities that maybe not the big cities, and we use what we refer to as open source software. So the short answer is yes, and maybe the good news is the software is actually available for free. We use open source software. It's called QGIS. It's available to staff. And I'll just show you here, this is sort of, it's a web application. See if I can, here's, for instance, the data that you have got access to already. It's secure, there's a license, not a license, a user account that was created. So I can, I'm just I think this is maybe what I looked at. So if I look at, if I click on that, particular pipe, I'll get specific information about it. Let me see if I can do. So here's, I'm going to quickly show you here. This is the consequence of failure. This is sort of, I'm not sure you know this area, going to the reservoir from, this is sort of the red pipe that we just talked about. That's the consequence is high. The probability of failure is all in green, so it's good condition, and that's a combined risk value, for instance. So that's all that information available. Here, I can just sort of show you a bit more here. This is sort of some graphs, some generic graphs that we just talked about that's available here, risk profiles, etc., etc. So I'm not going to go into detail here, but the short answer is yes, it's available. And the other thing I should mention here is that to make this easier and more cost effective, it's actually hosted on a central server. So it's not all over the place. We maintain it on one local web or a hosted service, which means that we only update it at one place at a time. Hopefully, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so we'll write.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Vandenberg. I want to thank you, Chair, for the information you provided today in light of our utilities, and we know that it's always an ongoing project with maintenance, et cetera, and with that comes the cost. So thank you, and we look forward to the report as it comes to the administration, and we'll deal with it with leadership.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and good luck there with your rest of your meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're going to move on to the next item on the minutes, is the approval of the October 10th council minutes. Those that are circulated to you, you have not to do them. Are there any errors or omissions? Here or if not, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
So move we approve the minutes.
Minutes have been seconded by Councilor McNeil, all in favor?
Aye.
Undivided, motion is carried.
Going to move on to the CAO's report, which will be presented this time by Alex.
So the CIO report has been sent out already. I just have a couple of comments to highlight. Council will need to make the decision regarding the EPR that Kelly brought forward in front of the meeting. So the deadline for this decision will be December 11th, which is the next council meeting. Later on, there's a motion up for discussion, but just to highlight it now, there's the Destination Cape Breton new MOU that was already sent around. We will be sending out, or maybe we already have, sorry, a washroom update from all the washrooms that Victoria County has funded. Coming in the new year at the Committee of the Whole, we will have the Recreation Department coming forward to make a presentation. The Beacon Bedeck information sessions happened last week. We have a couple of jobs currently vacant. So the Public Works position at the New Haven Depot closed on Wednesday, so we're moving forward. My voice doesn't go a lot louder than this. Or my kids, yeah. The Public Works attendant position at the New Haven Depot, the position or the vacancy closed on Wednesday, so we're sorting through resumes there. We currently have 2 vacancies open, posted on our website for a financial analyst and a digital communications assistant. Those close on the 20th. A post will be going out regarding accepting applications for the recycling depot, so check for that in the near future. Just to highlight, in lieu of the holiday, Wednesday is going to be a double collections day. One item that we're looking for council direction on is regarding to two surplus assets that we have. Kelly brought these up forward to a meeting in September. So we have a 2010 side loader, a waste collection truck, and a 2015 International ProStar, which is a transfer truck. So we have recently replaced these. So we are looking for input from council if we're going to be selling these as surplus assets. That is the recommendation from staff. I don't know if we-
So that is a recommendation from staff. Do we wish to put them out to tender or just dispose of them in that manner?
I make a motion, we put them up to tender.
It's been moved by Councillor McNeil, seconded by Deputy Warden. All in favor? Contrary minded?
Okay, great. We will do
Motion's
that.
carried. So
Thank
we'll
you.
proceed with that. Thanks.
Okay, just as an FYI, for the Community Climate Capacity Program, the Cape Breton Partnership is applying in partnership with us to secure some funding there. And the fall newsletter is complete and should be going out any day. So there's just a couple of highlights. Are there any questions from the report?
Any questions or comments or concerns in regards to CAU's report this afternoon? None? Thank you very much for providing that. And next item is we're going to take a 10-minute recess. It is 2:38. We'll reconvene at 2:48. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're going to reconvene council, please. And everybody is settled. So our next item on our council agenda this afternoon is district concerns. We'll start with Councillor Horgan. Please.
Thank you, Warden. It's been pretty quiet. Most of my calls and emails for the last little while has been on the LIC, so hopefully that stops for a while now. I just want to let everybody know that on Friday, November 17th, between 6 and 8, I will be having office hours at the Niels Harbor, New Haven Volunteer Fire Department. And also that I have a few road issues and I'll be contacting Mr. McDonald about those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Warden.
Yes, thanks, Warden. First of all, I want to make a motion that $1,000 from the District 6 budget be given to the English Snowmobile Society. They're looking at constructing a warming hut on the new trail that they're constructing right now, and its trail work has been very slow. It's been very wet, and it's been harder than anticipated, but still hope to have phase 1 done by the time the snow flies and we'll be open. But I'd like to make that motion for $1,000 to be provided for the warming.
Do you have a second for that motion, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Horgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. The money is spent.
And just a couple of items, was speaking with MLA Bain again in regards to the English barrier, and he's trying to set up a meeting right now with Natural Resources and Environment. Seems like we talk to them on a weekly basis, but in regards to the barrier, once again, they want to have a meeting on it. So at least they're willing to talk about it again. So we'll be doing that. Also, the bridge works started at English Harbor and they completed the armor stone work on Beach Crossing Road. So it's good seeing some things being done with Department of Transportation. And that's it for District 6.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. On to District 5, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden. Just a suggestion, nothing to do with district concerns. I wonder if we could look at the feasibility of changing the location of the screen, because the people in the gallery can't see it. You know, I don't know if it could fit under the air exchange or the heat pump or whatever, or somewhere even on the sidewall. You know, I think it's a real disadvantage to anyone, unless they all want to crowd over and sit in their laps. And we may not have big crowds sometimes, but at least if it's here, we could all see it instead of just that. Anyway, thank you. This is just kind of an update of things I've observed in the last couple of months. As you know, I had a newcomers night back in May, and there were 70 people in attendance, some of which, oh, they're gone. Anyway, they were here. And Bullogy area is growing because one indicator is the school. A few years ago, there were 65 students. Today, there's 90. So, I mean, there's young families moving in. Every time I see David McKenzie, I ask him about the number of building permits and so on that are going on. We have the farm market, had a very successful summer. These are small. Most people don't make their living at it, but they make a few dollars at it. So I think the general trend, and as we saw when we were in Halifax, Nova Scotia is growing and Victoria County is growing too, which is a major reversal. And the warden and I go back over 20 years. When I first came here, our big concern was out-migration. And we were losing our young people. They were going away to work and so on. And now they're either coming back or finding work here, which is very gratifying to see. So I think there's optimism in our districts and in the county about the direction we're headed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McDonald.
Yes, thank you, Warden. Just a few things, not so much district concerns, but follow-ups. One was with regard to the meeting that Council Horgan and I had with South Harbor channel blockage. I just wanted to thank those residents who took it upon themselves to write some letters. And those letters have been forwarded off to MLA Bain, who's taking the next steps through environment. He has some next steps that he will be taking, and he said that he will be in contact with either Councilor Horgan or myself in the near future to take the next steps with those residents. And I had a phone call last week in regard to, I guess it's weather cameras. They're situated in Cape Breton Highlands National Park, one being on the South Mountain and the other one on the French. I was just wondering maybe if we could reach out to Parks in regard to, they've been down more than they've been up, is what I'm getting from most people that travel in those areas. I was wondering if we could maybe reach out to Parks to get a time frame of why I guess they're down and they're not in operation, because they've been down quite often. So if I can make a motion to have a notification sent to Parks Canada in regard to the weather cameras on the South Mountain and the French Mountain. Please, I'd like to make that a motion.
A motion's been made by Councilor McDonald. Do we have a second, please? Second by the Deputy Warden. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Go ahead, sir.
And lastly, all road concerns in District 8 have been forwarded to Steve McDonald. That's it for District 8.
Thank you, Councilor McDonald, for your report from District 8. Councilor Longva, Councilor District 4.
Yeah, there's the meeting that was postponed with Nova Scotia Power is rescheduled for November 30th at the Indian Brook Fire Hall at 7 o'clock. And that's to give an update on what's happening at the Wreck Cove Hydro Project and to answer any questions that people in the area have. And I just wanted to, as I'm sure everyone that's listening to the news heard about the 47 million investment in cell service, and we had an opportunity, council had an opportunity of meeting with Build Nova Scotia in Halifax, and they showed us maps where all the civic addresses with poor or no cell service were marked. And for the most part, they were very accurate, and I thought that was a great meeting and great news for us, and it is rural Cape Breton, and so that's really good for Victoria County.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's it for your district. Councilor McNeil, District number 1.
Thank you, Warden. Just road issues, a couple of road issues, and I spoke with Steve McDonald on them. Shoulder issues along in Jamesville and in front of the Legion in Iona, and also potholes in Grass Cove that must be fixed before winter time. Also, I just found out that the water bills will be going out Thursday. Yeah. And there is an issue with the readings on the Little Neris water supply. So it's basically what happened to the rest of the readings throughout the county on the prior bills. So I'm just warning people to look at their bills carefully, and a letter will be sent out with them explaining what happened. And also, I just want to reiterate what Councilor Longva said. The meeting with Bill Nova Scotia went well, and I want to thank Kevin Klein for meeting with us up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor McNeil.
Oh, one other.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that $1,000 be taken out of my district budget to go to the Barra Food Bank.
Yeah, that is a motion. Do we have a second for that, please?
Second.
Councillor Longva has seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, the motion is carried. Is that it for you, Councillor McNeil? Thank you. Councillor McLeod.
Yeah, thank you. I had for Nova Scotia Power, the poles in Big Bedak, they're leaning sideways right now in South Big Bedak. So I wonder if we can send a note to Nova Scotia Power to tell them to get some, to
Repair.
check it out.
Yep.
Because the storms are coming.
Okay.
I don't know, I need a motion.
No, I think Alex has captured it. So, yeah.
Another thing, I just wonder the CBRM, I would like to know how the municipality is advocating for the hospital in CBRM. We have, the ER, the family doctors, the clinics. So if they don't fix that problem there, our hospital is not going to be open for another services. So I just wonder if we can ask them what kind of job or advocacy they are doing. So I just sending a letter.
Perhaps, maybe if it's appropriate, if I could, maybe we ask Brett McDougall, who is responsible for Cape Breton, maybe come to council and we could ask him that and other questions and concerns that have come forward
Okay, with
to council.
okay. So
Would you-
it's the same for asking if we can ask them to to come, NSHA, the urgent care community.
Yeah.
To come and give us update what our hospital is doing.
Okay,
If they have some numbers in what kind of services we're facing here, because I think our services, they are very limited and we can make better, do better. So I wonder, in the same note, if we can ask them to come to council.
Yeah. so you're okay with this? Okay with the suggestion to ask them to come to council and then we can address any issues north as well, so.
Yes, of course. But really, I would like to know about CBRM, what they're doing
Yes, okay.
from them.
Do you want to put that in the form of a
If
motion?
I make a motion, if we can send a letter to CBRM and NHSA to, if one to come to council and know how they are doing for helping to the hospital in the regional.
You have a seconder for that, please? Second by Counselor Morgan, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion's carried. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah,
Counselor?
the another thing is, I just wonder if we know the bathrooms in the deck, they'll be open this season and the times and days.
I'm not sure, but I might ask one of the village commissioners who are here. Are the washrooms still open at do you know if the washrooms are still open at the Visitor Information Center, Mr. Crowder?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to see Bapta is going to opt them, because the last year, I think we give some money for supplies and.
Yeah,
and that.
Kept
So-
them open till Christmas, till after the parade.
So if we can have information.
We'll have a chat with the village. Yeah, we'll follow up with the village on that one.
Yeah, because people is asking, so.
Yes, yes, and I know the parade is on the 26th, and we extended it last year with some funding, so we'll ask Alex to be in touch with the village and see what the arrangements we can make. It's a good point.
Okay, and the second is, we talked this about maybe a year or I can't remember exactly when, about a dog park. We was talking about, when we have the properties around in exit 10, the Atlantic Road.
Yep.
We have some land there.
Yep.
So I just wonder if Chris or the tourism department can start researching about if we couldn't put a dog park there. I think it's a good idea. It's an exit. Tourists comes and can go, and so people is asking about that instead inside the village, maybe outside will be.
We could do that.
We can
and-
some information.
Yeah, and we'll direct that through
To the staff. Yeah.
the administration and then perhaps have a report or recommendation at the next council meeting or
Yeah.
whenever it's available.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll look
for
into
sure.
it for sure.
And another thing, my resident Scott Buchanan went to the Province House in Halifax last week when you guys were reviewing in S&M to get the Medal of Bravery. So I wonder if we can send a letter to congratulate him and thank you for his service. And we're so proud of him.
Very much so, and that should be an informative motion as well.
Make a
so.
motion for it, send a letter to Scott Buchanan to congratulate him for his Medal of Bravery.
We have a seconder for that motion, please. That's been seconded by Councilor McNeil. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And in November 23rd at 10 a.m., I will be in the courthouse to open the public. So if anybody have to come and talk to me, I will be here. And just I need a motion for, I asked for these grants to go from my district budget, but I think it didn't go. It's $1,000 for Middle River Hall and $1,000 for Bedek Forks and $500 for 4-H Victoria County Club. So I asked for that, I think, but I didn't see it in the report. It was withdraw, so I just make sure.
Was there already a motion for that?
Yeah, I can make a motion for
Okay,
that.
okay, I'll look into it, yeah.
For $1,000 for Middle River Hall.
No, was there, you make this a prior meeting?
Yeah, I feel like last meeting, but didn't withdraw in my district budget, so I don't know if they get it.
We need a seconder for that motion, please. I guess you're remaking it. We'll just have a
Yeah,
second.
just make sure it's done.
Yeah, it's captured this time. Yeah. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, that's it.
That's it. Thank you. I just have two quick items. One is a streetlight request And it's residential intersection, McDonald Street and Hilltop Crescent. The pole is on the western side of a three-way intersection, and I just make that a motion. And thank you. I've provided the appropriate documentation. The second item, very pleased we received, and I think you also received and saw the letter from Public Works. The Office of the Minister, finally, after 20 years, they're going to reduce the speed limit down to 70 kilometers, Tim Horton Irving. So we just received that information November 7th. So that's great news. We've been lobbying that for over 20 years. So I think in fairness to those involved that we made the request also came not only from myself, but Chief Norman Bernard. We had support of the chief and his council in forwarding that request, and we just got notification it has been approved. So I'd just like to make a motion. We send a note back to the Premier and the Minister and to Chief Norman, thanking them for their attention in the matter and the successful reduction to that speed limit, finally down to 70 kilometers per hour. So that's great news. So I'll make that a motion, please. Yes, Counselor.
Any word on the crosswalk for Bedeck School there?
We have not. We're still waiting on that. And that was a traffic control issue because it depends where the crosswalk is. If it's on one side of Founds Drive, it's required, it's just kind of approval. If it's on the other side, it's a different one. So we're waiting for the traffic control officer to provide a report. So, but we should perhaps send a good point. We should send a note.
It's
to
with
that.
my no parking sign for the school bus.
The same place. Apparently they're both parked in the same place. So with that, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. It's motions, proclamations, resolutions. So we have 1, 2, 3 motions, I believe, and a motion for memorandum of understanding with Destination Cape Breton. You all received that document in your council package. Any questions or concerns about that MOU? If not, we would like to have a motion to sign that. Well, that is moved by the deputy warden, that we, seconded by Councillor Patterson, that we sign the motion memorandum of understanding with Destination Cape Breton. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Motion for Bedeck Area Advisory Committee, that's the Planning Commission for the village. And there were 4 names put forward. You received that document as well. And we just need a motion of council approving those committee appointments.
I'll second it.
Seconded. So it's been moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Longo, that those committee appointments be approved as recommended. All in favor? Motion is carried. Motion on J-Class roads for cost sharing provincial department highways. That's a request that comes to our council every year. Is there any change in it this year, or anybody want to take over any of those?
Just a question, Warden. I don't know if it can be answered here or not, but does this include maintenance and paving or just paving?
I would say probably both.
Both. And it's 50-50 cost share.
That is correct.
Now, we're not the experts in these roads, and we don't know the condition of, we got the list, but that doesn't really tell us very much about the condition of them. So has the Department of Public Works prioritized some of them as needing more work than others that we know of?
I would say they probably would wait for us to prioritize them, and then they
So,
would
okay,
determine.
My question, begging the
Yeah.
question of how do we go drive them and see if they need repair or not? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. In fact, a number of them are.
And I think for
problems,
this year
so-
anyway, there's no way we can participate because we've already set our budget. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deputy Warden.
The same comments as Fraser basically is that this is downloading by the province and something that we've never paid for before, so why should we start now? But what's gonna happen is the province is gonna go to residents and say, oh, go to your municipality, if they'll pay 50%, then we'll do it.
Yeah.
It's just downloading by the provincial
That's right.
government, so I'm definitely not in favor of
Yeah.
taking anything out of your hands.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone in the room who was maybe working for the finance department, and he may be sitting over there. Just basically what we gained in the service exchange, the amount of money. I don't think that it paid half a kilometer.
No, it wouldn't. It's 148,000.
So,
And to both your points, they were the ones that decided to pave some of these roads, which probably weren't prepared properly, and now they're all crumbling beneath us, literally, so. Yes, sir.
I think the list that they sent us was a prioritized list that they sent us because there was no J-class roads from my area on that list, and we have all kinds of them over there, so. Yeah, I'd say it was. Yeah,
I drive by them down in Quebec Bay, and
Yeah.
this stuff becomes part of Bullinger. I don't know, maybe with redistribution. Barb, you gave that away, did you, or what?
Gave wood away.
That road.
Two of the roads.
They had
One of
the
your
two-
roads?
They had two roads that were listed under Bullinger that are in Tiny, whatever, one of them.
The McKilla, the Kaiser Hill, that
Yeah,
road.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, there were two
They're in
roads.
your district. That's not Bowling Green.
Yeah, we
It's on
straightened
the
that
main
one out,
road.
so,
I-
yeah.
There's 5 roads listed in District 7. It just would be just astronomical expense to share, cost share of that. I won't be voting for that.
No. So we're just going to pass, we're not going to, would just say we're not interested at this point. I guess we should say a motion that we're not interested in covering the cost of J-class roads.
Move that we are not interested in covering the cost. That's their responsibility.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
All right.
Contrary minded? Motion's carried. With any course, that's it for motions, proclamations, resolutions. Any correspondence come to council this afternoon?
It's all already been sent.
It's already been circulated to you. You've had a chance to review them. We have, yes,
This is just something that I forgot. I don't know if it's the right time to mention it right now.
a district concern.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, it was about the road up to the Highlands and Rock Cove. Like a lot of people go up there. Google Maps takes them there, like they're looking for a short way to Shetty Camp or something, and people end up going up
Yeah.
there, and there's roads everywhere up there. So people are getting lost up there and, breaking down. And I was wondering if there could be some signage put at the bottom of the road, like saying, that they shouldn't go up there, or some warning or something at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I don't know who I should speak to about that.
Transportation.
So I should send a letter to Steve
I'd start
McDonald,
there.
or- Yeah,
He might say it's not a listed road, but that's where you'd start.
yeah. And I guess I could talk to Nova Scotia Power, since they have the project there. Maybe they would put signage.
But st-
I have one in Instagram. They were on the other side and people are telling us, and they change it and put some sign there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else before we go to the last item on council? We have several people here from, that have joined us this afternoon. We want to thank you for attending council session. We certainly welcome the opportunity. If you have any questions or comments, we're more than happy to take those this afternoon. I would ask two things. One, as you come forward to the chair, just identify yourself, and I would ask, since if there's several people here, that your comments be and or questions be brief, and if it's appropriate that we answer them, we shall. If not, we won't. So who wishes to come? Is there anybody, let me ask, is anybody here that has any questions or comments they wish to make? Just one, Mr. Hudson, you want to come forward? And perhaps introduce yourself to those who do not.
High tech here.
My name is Sandy Hudson, and as a lawyer, I should know the answer to a question before I ask it, and I don't. The motion that you went through today, which was the second reading, was defeated. The first reading was approved. What happens if this is introduced? Do you have to go back to a first reading again, and then a second? Or do you just revise the second? Yeah, if you reintroduce it next month, is that the second reading, or do you have to go back for the first reading? I think it would be you go back to the first reading.
I think you'd have to go back. But
Could
Go
I
ahead.
give a comment? I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but I think that you wouldn't introduce the same document again. You would make some changes to it where we've gotten comments on changes that could be made. Now, that's just my opinion
But
too.
it would then be coming as a first
I
reading.
think it'd go back to the first reading, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
and to your point, I don't know the answer either, but I will tell you that we'll find out.
Okay. No,
Yep,
that's good.
fair question. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Anybody else? Third and last time. I will now say that our next council meeting is December 11th at 2 p.m. And again, thank you for having the time and interest coming to municipal council this afternoon. We have a motion to
We adjourn.
adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
It's been moved by Councilor McNeil. We adjourn. We are adjourned.